Hello bass family, welcome to Everything Bass. Yeah, today we're going to talk about a transition. When you're playing bass and going from one chord to another chord, or sometimes you're staying on a chord, but you want to transition to direct the listener to that chord. And a lot of people ask me about this. They might use terms like, "Oh, I wish I could learn some really cool riffs or I want to be able to walk from one place to another." But they're not talking about jazz. They're just talking about funk, rock, blues, whatever. And one of the simplest transitions you can learn is called the chromatic bridge. And chromatic, because you'll see in a second, well, it's what I was demonstrating, where 3 of the notes are actually chromatic. They're right next to each other. You're not skipping a tone at all. And then it's called bridge because you're bridging the gap between one chord to another chord. Now, I should say at this point, if you want to have the lesson sheet so you can follow along, it's written in standard notation and tab. It can be found on my Patreon page. If you go to the description below, click on Patreon, and then it'll take you right to my account. Become a monthly Backstage Pass subscriber. You'll actually be able to find a post called the Chromatic Bridge, and the sheet will be there and a link back to the video, so it makes it really easy for you to grab it and come back. Okay. So we're going to use examples of going from the G7 chord to a C7 chord, but it's really can be done between any 2 chords regardless of the quality. Stylistically, you may have to adjust the rhythm or change it just a little bit to fit the style of music you're playing, but it will work with all genres. So going from a G7 to a C7, now we're kind of finding a way to do this. Now there's a simple rule to memorize this, and that's what makes this one of the easiest transitions to learn. The rule is super simple. So when you're on the chord, like in this case G7, we're looking ahead and we're going to go to the C7. The first beat, which means the first note you play in the G7 chord, you play G, the root. Makes sense. Then, and we're going to start with just chord notes, by the way. We're going to play just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, like that, okay? So the rule is you play the root of the chord you're on, but the next note you play is actually more related to the chord you're going to, in this case C. And the next note you play on beat 2 is going to be 3 frets below your target note, in this case C. So I played the G, then I'm going to play an A, because A is 3 pitches, 3 semitones below the C. So I go G, A, then I go B flat, B, C, and there's the chromatic part. And that's what you need to memorize, is that you start by playing the root of the chord you're on, but the very next note you play on beat 2 should be 3 frets below the chord you're going to. Now, and I'll show you again. So we're on G7, so we start with G. Then we play A, B flat, B, C. Now it can be any 2 chords. Like I could play from A to E. I can go A, then I go 3 frets below the E. And let's hear how that sounds. Now let's say I want to get back to A. I've already played the E because I should be clear. When I play the E, or back down here the C, that's the first note of the measure that chord's under. So I'm on the E, that's the first note. I'm going to go to the A, I just go 3 frets below the A. Let me demonstrate that. So I'm going from A to E, E to A. See, cool? Now, you might say, oh, all right, I don't want to use that a lot because it's kind of boring, but that's just playing with chord notes. You can dress it up rhythmically, and there's so many great examples. One of my favorite masters of this was listening to Duck Dunn and, Booker T and the MGs, the Blues Brothers, just going back, just everywhere I would hear him play it, it always seemed to be the coolest way it could be played. And so the first thing you can do is play 8th notes. If you play it in straight time, I'm going to use for the rest of the examples, I'm staying from G to C. But you got, see, I just doubled every note. Start on the G again, chromatic up to the C. Now, and if I wanted to go back to the G, I can just vamp that. Okay? Cool thing you can do, and this I did, way back in the day when I heard Doug Dunn do it. He just did simple octaves. So from the G to C, G and the octave, A and the octave of A, B flat, the octave of B flat, B and the octave of B, and then I'm on C. Okay. Now you can do other things. You can kind of get creative. One of my favorite little lines, and I'm playing slowly. You play 2 8 notes, straight 8 notes, 1, and then you play 2 16th notes octaves of A, back to A, but that's an 8th note. So it sounds like boom, boom. That's also written out on the sheet. If you look wondering, I'm looking down just to make sure I'm accurate to what I wrote. And the sheet that will be on the Patreon page is at my feet. So by taking the rhythm 2 8 notes, and then 2 16th notes on 8th note, 2 8 notes, 2 8 notes, 16th note, and then on to the C. And of course you could do some other things. We could start on the octave of G. In this case, I'm going to the D. I've changed it up on the page to show a different sound. And watch what I'm doing here just with simple 8 notes. I'm going G, then I'm going to go to D, so I start on the B. And I'm going to go to G again, but the lower G, so I go from the D. So listen to that. So I'm going from G to D, so I start on the G. Go into the G. Now, if you're curious, you definitely can slap this. I mean, the technique's secondary. The melodic idea is primary. Understanding how to transition from one chord to another chord, starting on the root of the chord you're on, and then going 3 frets below the next chord you're going. So you're looking ahead going, oh, that's my chord. So then you play the root you're on, and then 3 frets below, and you walk up to the chord you're going. Now, questions I get when I teach this privately, people say, well, can a person do it if they're staying on the same chord? Yeah, they can, and they have. So if you're playing on like D and you're staying on D and it's a vamp and you're kind of just grooving and you want to do something, play the D 3 frets below the D and then back up to the D. I know you've heard this. Pretty simple. Yeah, and if you guys want to hear a really cool use of the chromatic bridge, but really I shouldn't say overdone, that's negative. No, just done a lot. It's really in the forefront, is listen to Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. It's pretty cool. At first, the chromatic bridges are subtle, and then at the intro, when he starts playing faster and faster, he just transitions every chord with a chromatic bridge, and it's a great thing. So check out Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. So what do you think? Did this make sense? I want to make sure that I'm teaching this in a way that you understand it, and I'm not blowing past anything. And that's what the comment section is below. Just let me know if you say, "Hey, totally missed it." I may, kind of contact you, and we can figure out like where I missed it or whatnot. Maybe I can do a follow-up video. I don't mind doing that at all. I just want to get it right. I want to make sure everyone understands. So start putting this into your songs, whether they be originals or covers. If you're going from a verse to a chorus, the last chord of the verse, see if you can't use a chromatic bridge, adjusting the rhythm and the style to meet the genre, but going up to the first chord of the chorus. It's just so much fun to do. It gives you a little bit chance to improvise, maybe in a situation where that's not really something you should be doing in the genre you're in and the band you're in. All right, I hope this makes sense, and I'm so glad that you took the time to watch the video. It'd mean a lot to me if you could subscribe to the channel, like the video, and of course share it with friends. That's what I just want this bass community to grow and grow, and it has. It's been wonderful to see. So thank you so much for spending time with me. I'll see you at the next video.